The night I saw him, I thought I was hallucinating. I was curled under a bridge with my daughter pressed against me, our thin blanket no match for the winter air. I'd just told her we'd make it to the shelter in the morning. Then headlights cut through the dark and a black car rolled to a stop. The man who stepped out was older, but his face was unmistakable. My grandfather, the one my father told me was dead. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He opened the door and said, "Come with me." I wanted to refuse. Pride screamed at me to. But my daughter's shivering body was louder. We went. The mansion was surreal. Marble floors, chandeliers, warmth so thick it felt like a different planet. My daughter's eyes widened at the sight of a fireplace, and I had to swallow the ache in my throat. But the real fire came when my grandfather poured a glass of whiskey, sat across from me, and said, "Your father told you I was dead, didn't he?" I nodded. My father had said it often, how his father died long ago, how he'd raised me without help, how we owed nothing to anyone. My grandfather's expression hardened. He told you that so he could steal. Steal? That word cracked something open. He explained, I was meant to inherit a trust my mother left me, money set aside for me and any future children. My father had intercepted it, funneled it into his own accounts, and cut ties with his family to keep me ignorant. Every eviction, every empty fridge, every night I worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on, while he drove new cars and took his new family on vacations, I finally understood. It hadn't been misfortune, it had been theft. I didn't break down, I didn't scream, I went still. Because in that moment I knew, if he could erase his own father, he could erase me just as easily. And he had. But now I had something he never expected, truth, and a man powerful enough to back me. My grandfather asked me what I wanted. Revenge, I said. My voice didn't even shake. He studied me, then nodded once. Then we'll do it right. We started with silence. No warning. My father didn't know I was no longer starving in the cold. Didn't know I was under the roof of the man he'd spent decades pretending was gone. While my daughter was given tutors, clothes, and a room of her own, I was given files, bank statements, property records, evidence of every dollar siphoned from the trust. My grandfather had lawyers on retainer. I didn't have to beg them to believe me. They already knew the type of man my father was. I sat through meetings, learning words like embezzlement and fraudulent transfer. And with every document, my resolve sharpened. The day came quietly. Court papers served at his door. His face when he saw my name on them, I wasn't there, but I imagined it. My brother texted me in a panic, saying Dad was raging, throwing things, demanding to know how I'd crawled back into the picture. I didn't answer, because silence is power. And he was about to learn what it felt like to be erased. The climax wasn't in a courtroom, it was at a dinner. My grandfather invited the family, every cousin, every aunt, even my father. He didn't tell them why. When my father walked in, his eyes landed on me across the table. He froze. I didn't smile, I simply lifted my glass. "You always said your father was dead," I said evenly. "Turns out he was just waiting for me." The room stiffened. My grandfather slid a folder across the table. "Everything you stole is gone. The trust has been restored, and she is the legal heir. You're finished." My father's face drained. He tried to speak, but the words tangled. I leaned forward, calm as ice. "I used to wonder why you hated me enough to leave me with nothing. Now I see, it wasn't hate, it was fear. Fear that one day I'd find out." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. That night, I tucked my daughter into her new bed, her favorite stuffed animal clutched in her arms. She whispered, "Are we safe now?" "Yes," I told her, and for once it was true. I don't think much about the bridge anymore, or the cold nights, or the hunger, but I do think about my father's last words to me before he stormed out of that dinner. "You'll regret this." He was wrong. I don't regret a single move, because he spent my whole life making sure I had nothing, and in the end, that nothing became the sharpest weapon I ever held.